everyone. My name is Bob Sager. This is Thriving in the Modern Economy, and we're happy to have you with us today. We've got something really exciting for you today. We have a guest on with us. Besides my co-host Chad Johnson and I, we've got a guest, Brian Butkowski. You can see him down there in the bottom of your screen with his fancy schmancy background. You can tell he's got something going on in terms of design, and that's his industry. So before we dive into our content, Brian, take a minute and just introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm Brian Butkowski. My company is Bomb Image, signified by the background here. I work in the design world. I'm a graphic designer by trade. I like to think that I provide logos and brand firepower to solopreneurs and small teams in the space of, I like to call it professional services, but lawyers, financial advisors, CPAs, people that may have a business relationship with personal people, but really all these relationships built on trust or B2B type relationships. But that's the quick gist about what I can offer.
Yeah, gotcha. And having known you for a little while now, Brian, and seeing some of the work that you do for folks, I'm highly impressed. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on today. And Brian is actually kind of volunteered to be a guinea pig to, we're working with one of the purposeful creative thinking processes that we teach. We've got, I'm going to cover some basics of how this works for you. Let me get my screen up here and I will share with you. All right. And so what we're going to be talking about today is a purposeful creative thinking method that we teach called the anchor term method. And the way the anchor term method works is this. First, you figure out what area or thing that you're looking for new solutions to or ideas for. And you use this thing or area of business as your anchor term. I'll give you an example of that. Let's say I'm in car sales and I'm looking for new ideas on how I can separate myself or my dealership in the estimation of customers and potential customers. And so to come up with better ideas and solutions, I use car sales as my anchor term. And what do we anchor it with? Well, you put together a set of 10 words. Now, the creative thinking game that I invented called What's the Big Idea is perfect for doing that because it's got 400 word cards and you just draw them out. It's totally random, which is very important. So it makes it simple to do. But even if you don't own a copy of the game, you can simply look around and choose the first 10 items you come to. Like as I look around, I see a clock and I see speakers and I see a computer and I see a lamp, etc. So you can do that. Now, you might think, hey, what in the world does that have to do with car sales? Or what does that have to do with my business? Well, nothing necessarily. But what it does is because those words are random, when you combine them with your anchor term, it helps to instigate and activate your creative juices. And it starts you thinking on other possibilities that you wouldn't necessarily do or you wouldn't think of if you were just trying to think of ideas. So then, as I mentioned before, you mentally combine your anchor term with each one of those words. Okay, and then you see what ideas occur to you as you combine each word with your anchor term. And Brian, I think you can attest just from the short exercise that we did today, the power of this process, can't you?
Absolutely. It makes you stretch your mind in ways you didn't really think normally. So I really appreciate it.
It's quite amazing. And listen, part of the most gratifying thing for me is when we go in and we're working with employees at companies typically, and to see them use the processes that we use and surprise themselves at the ideas that they come up with. That is very gratifying for me. And it's something that moving forward in this age of artificial intelligence that we're in, that uniquely human skill of purposeful creative thinking is something you're going to have to master if you want, yourself and your organization to thrive. So what Brian and I did, and by the way, we were having a little competition today. What Brian and I did is we took his company and his services and we said, the anchor term that we're going to work with is design services marketing. And I took the what's the big idea game. I drew 10 words out at random. You see the list there: elbow, garden, glasses, attraction, office, house, glove, trains, soap, and rings. Now you might not think those had any darn thing to do with design services marketing, but the magic is in the combination and what that does to your creative faculties. So what Brian and I did is separately, we used that anchor term and those words to come up with an idea to for Brian's business, Bomb Image. And so what I'm going to do, Brian, first is I'm going to let you tell us what word that you combined design services marketing with, and then tell us what your idea is. Then I'm going to go, and then what I want you to do, everybody that's watching this, I want you to vote. And we're going to probably take 24, 48 hours to see who votes for which idea. And we're going to see which idea you like better. And listen, the great thing about that is in playing games like this, I had a client of mine that told me, he said, Bob, the greatest thing about playing these games is when you win, and when you lose, you still win, right? So there are really no losers. That doesn't mean I don't want to beat Brian. So with that, Brian, go ahead and fill us in on what word you used with the anchor term and tell us about what your idea is.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. I looked at all of them, kind of went through them. I had a couple of top ones I was looking at, but I kept coming back to house. So design services, marketing that as a house. That's really, I kind of went literal with it. And really my thought behind my idea right now is creating a visual that describes the items that I'm going to bring to market or the services that I bring to market, and really utilize a visual. Like if it was going to be a static visual, maybe it's a blueprint, or maybe it's an elevation drawing, if you're familiar with architecture, but pointing out different areas on this visual as to what parts of the house would be the services that I might be providing with Bomb Image. I also thought that, man, if we did this right, we could look at it in an interactive way. Maybe there's a website, a web page where you could actually select on things. You could mouse over, hover, and maybe there's some clickable areas where maybe some descriptions pop up. Maybe you could reach out to go to a portfolio or learn more. And obviously there could be maybe some videos that pop up inside of this that could actually describe very, very nicely what services and what items are provided. But really thinking about it from that visual aspect and thinking about the house, some of the things that really sparked my imagination and thoughts are, you have your foundation, you have your basement. That could be your brand messaging. Those assets, your logo, your visual identity, those pieces could be the real foundation of your home, your house. The living room might be your collateral materials, your print materials, your business cards, letterhead, envelopes, things like that. Then moving on to like the kitchen, everybody says the kitchen's a gathering place. That's where everybody gathers in a home typically. I was thinking that maybe your central hub, that could be your website. Maybe that's the website service is located inside the kitchen. And you can learn all about how all these pieces are coming together and all these pieces and spokes come off of that main gathering area. I was thinking like the garage could be your content area where you're creating your written blogs, maybe some video blogs, things like that. Maybe your email marketing, again, filtering back toward the kitchen when you open that door and go back in the house. And finally, thinking about like the roof of the house, maybe that's your social media. Those are those final touches, those easy touches, those things that bring people in. And kind of cover all the bases, cover your whole home. But that was really the gist of the idea that I had is how could you or me describe, design services in terms that really worked inside of a home or a house. So that was my thought.
Well, it's completely relatable, right? And to use my catchphrase, I think it's freaking brilliant. I mean, if you can do that, it really, somebody who's visiting your website, that makes it extremely interactive for them, right? And it's almost like a two-way interaction, as opposed to them just reading like a brochure on your site, for lack of a better term. So
Absolutely.
I love it, and it never ceases to amaze me how all that can come out of combining one word with an anchor term.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just astounding. All right, so my idea, I think, is going to pale in comparison to yours, but but I'm a simple person, Brian. So what my idea is, I combined design services marketing with gardening, and the idea that I came up with was to do a series of videos to demonstrate the work that goes into putting a design together. Each one will be no more than 2 minutes long, and it will be somewhat like a time lapse video of a plant, or excuse me, a seed germinating and growing, right? And if you didn't want to do a whole series of videos, what you could do is video the entire process of, say, designing a logo or designing a brochure, right? And put that into a hyper speed, where you're doing like 10x speed on that, so that it fits into a 2-minute video. A couple of other thoughts that I had: if it's a series of videos, you would post them on, excuse me, series or a single video, you would post them on YouTube, your social media outlets, anywhere where video is hosted. And one of the advantages that I see to doing the series of videos is that you could invite your followers or social media or YouTube channel visitors to guess what it's going to be or what it's going to look like. So, because I'm sure there's a layering process, and I'm not an artist, so I don't, don't 100% know the design process, but I'm sure that it gets layered in a little bit at a time. And I actually came up with a tagline as well. The tagline is, "Let us grow your brand."
Absolutely. I love it.
So anyway, so we're gonna ask our viewers to vote. Do you like Brian's house idea better, or do you like my growing from a seed idea better? And if you choose Brian, I will not be offended, and I won't be mad at you. So just so you're aware, something I would suggest to the viewers is, if you're a business owner, or even if you want to come up with some ideas internally for your company that you work for, is take your company, some aspect of your company, and combine them with the 10 words that you see on that screen, and apply your imagination to it and see what kind of ideas that you come up with. So that's one way that you can utilize this for yourself. And Brian, so one of the other reasons that I wanted to invite you on today is, you were going to provide what I call a 2-minute tip on design and marketing. So would you mind going ahead and sharing that with the viewers?
Absolutely. I thank you for the opportunity to do that. And I will say, the funny thing about the ideas is, garden was one of the ones I was strongly looking at, and I would have had a completely different idea than you did. So good stuff. These are all fun ways to explore and experiment.
Do you mind if I interject a point on that before you give your 2-minute tip? So one of the things that I tell people is, each person has a unique life experience. So we can look at a combination of words and come up with an idea, but somebody else looks at that, and because they have a completely different life experience and background than we do, they see something completely different, right?
Uh-oh. Looks like Bob may be locked up. If that's the case, I'll take the floor and finish off with my tip. You there, Chad?
I sure am coming in to join you. I think we did lose Bob for a second there. Technical difficulties for him.
Looks
Keep
like
going.
it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll give my quick tip. But yeah, my thought today was about branding, and it was really the thought. It's come up in some conversations I've had lately and some things I've been looking at. But people buy on emotion. I know that obviously, Chad, you know that too. It's something that's pretty pervasive out there. But the whole idea about branding is really how you can make somebody feel, because I think one of the best things about when we look at our brand, it's our reputation. And a quote from Jeff Bezos, I think, is one of the best ones, is that your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So as much as we try and create a brand or whatever, it really is important and critical for us to know that all we can do is influence that. Our job is to influence what that feeling is. As we know, the brand can be pervasive, and it is reflected in every single touch point that we can have with a potential customer. And obviously you can earn trust or lose trust in every one of those little touches or transactions. So one of the quick things I think about from a design standpoint, going back to that part of it, is, when we're trying to trigger people to be, hey, making them feel happy or healthy or heard is one of the ones that I get a lot. Aside from our core values and our mission and our vision, what we can do that are tangible when we're trying to influence those conversations and those touch points is we can look at the the psychology of color and how that plays a factor in people's thoughts and minds. Again, everybody has different experiences, but maybe you can trigger the right emotions out of the right coloring and color schemes. We look at the imagery that we use. Even typography can make a real difference in how people see you and see your brand as they feel it and get to create their own emotion based on what you're bringing to the table. So really it's about figuring out what resonates. You survey potential clients and think and experiment and really just see what can work and what inspires that person to buy on that emotion, that raw part of, hey, yeah, we want to be logical. We want to think about things in a logical way, but we know it all goes back to that feeling and feeling good or feeling comfortable or, again, happy, healthy, or heard. So that's my tip for the day.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. And that really resonates with me, because that's one of the things that I discuss with people all the time. And what I want to talk about, here for the next couple of minutes is the fact that, not only do companies have brands, we all as individuals have brands. We have our own personal brand, and we get to determine that. And it, really right now, especially for anybody in sales, one of the biggest things that they need to be focusing on is their personal brand and their visibility on social media and just on the internet in general. People are really missing out on what the opportunity is here. Because you think about it, you're a consumer, I'm a consumer, Bob's a consumer. I get interested in something. What's the first thing I do? I don't know about you. I Google it. I get online. I start digging it up, right? And buyers in the business world are exactly the same way, because they now expect their B2B world to interact with them just like as if they were a regular customer buying for themselves.
Right.
And so one of the most important things that I think anybody in sales and any business owner needs to be aware of is the fact that, look, when these buyers go online and they start searching for your services and products and things that you offer, if you're not out there and they can't find you easily, you're going to get missed. Or if they do find you and you don't really present a great image, your profile's incomplete, they don't know what you solve for, what your business is about, and you're not putting out anything that's relevant content-wise to talk about the problems that they may be facing and the solutions that you provide that may be beneficial to them, then you're really losing out. I talk to, especially in the B2B world, I talk to salespeople every day. And the big thing that I hear is they're like, I can't get a hold of any decision makers. I can't get anybody to talk to me. And I go and I look at their profile online and I'm like, I can probably tell you why. They go to look you up, say you place a call, you send them an email, you leave them a message, they go to look you up and they're like, do I really want to talk to this person? Are you putting your best foot forward? Are you representing yourself as well as your organization well enough for them to feel, yeah, that's a trustworthy person. Maybe I should give them an opportunity. Maybe I should talk to them. And that's the one thing that people are really missing. And especially here on LinkedIn, 50% of all B2B buyers, they use LinkedIn as their primary and most trusted source for finding the people they're going to work with and the products and services that they want. So not only are they looking for corporate brands and products, which people within those brands they want to talk to. Who do they feel are like the thought leaders and are actually talking about the things that are problems to them? And if you're not doing that in today's sales world, you're falling behind every single day, because that's really the way of the world. And it was happening before COVID, but COVID really accelerated it and made it happen a lot faster. And so today, if you don't have a good, your profile optimized on LinkedIn, if you're not, if people can't look at your profile in just a few seconds go, oh, this is what they do, these are the problems they solve, this is who they are, and a little bit of, and then they'll be more interested in, oh, what's your experience and your recommendations and all of that. But when they initially look at that, they're going to see it right away, just like what you do with design. And it's amazing because I'll never see yellow with bees like that and not think bomb image ever again. It won't happen. Who doesn't recognize the Coca-Cola swoop? Well, we have become the same sort of brand as individuals. And that's why Bob and I do these lives, and that's why we wanted to have you on here, is because really it all goes back to people need to get themselves out there. It's funny. One of the things I tell people is I like, use videos, put your face out there, talk to people, do lives. And they're like, man, that's so nerve wracking. I go, well, let me ask you this. Do you put a bag over your head to go on to a meeting or to go into someone's office and have an in-person meeting? They're like, no. And I go, so what's the difference? Take a deep breath and push record, And what if I mess up my words, or what if I don't sound right? I go, you can do that in a normal conversation. So what? Matter of fact, it's authentic. It's real. If you don't make a mistake, it's too scripted. And then everybody's like, that's a production piece. You didn't really, there's nothing there. That's not authentic. Heck, I think it's great. That's one of the things I think is fun. Like a second ago, we had a technology glitch. Okay, move on. It happens. Who doesn't understand it?
Right.
And I think really that's the one thing, getting salespeople, and especially in organizations, they have their cadence as well. We're going to do this and this and this. I'm like, yeah, nobody cares about that. That's great if you feel good about it, but what are your results telling you? It's kind of funny. I talk to sales leaders and they'll be like, well, calls aren't doing as well as they used to. We're not booking appointments. We're not getting in touch with decision makers. I'm like, I know, because you have no online, your people have no brand. Your company has a brand, but good products aren't what sell. At the end of the day, we all still buy from people. And the term is buy, by the way. We don't like to be sold anymore. Not that we ever did, but we definitely don't want to be sold anymore today. We just want to be informed and let us make an informed decision. Be more of a concierge. And that's really what your brand is all about. And I think that's where people are missing out right now. So to anybody that's watching either live or in replay, if you want, I have a free ebook I will email to you on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to help you easily be identifiable and searchable on LinkedIn, and easily give that impression when someone looks at it, go, hey, this is what I do. These are the problems I solve. These are the people that I service, the types of people that I service, or the types of businesses that I service. Great. And so if you want that, just DM me here on LinkedIn, and I will send you that ebook for free. So that's my freebie for the day. Brian, what do you think the biggest part? I want to piggyback off it, because you really resonated with me on image. What do you think the level of growth the company experiences from having that right color, that right design, that right piece for their business brand? I mean, what do you think the difference is between a poor logo and a good logo in the performance of the organization?
Going back to what you said about the salespeople and the individuals and the personal brands that are associated with it, I think it's hard to quantify that. That's the thing. It's not always easy to quantify every number, or you can put big numbers behind things. But I'd like to say the biggest part of that would be missing the boat. I think it's more about what you turn away. So I think it's easy to think that you could turn 50% of the people away by doing something wrong, or maybe you could lift by 50% pretty easily. I've seen grander numbers than that. You can get huge returns on investment, especially if you come from a nowhere brand to somewhere that stands out. So I think an easy number would be that 50-50. But the point being, I think, is that you want to make sure, again, depending on how big your organization is, if you're a solopreneur, it's one thing. You are the brand. So that makes a huge difference right there. But inside of an organization, making sure that people are, whether it's the message itself or the visuals, are all on the same page and everybody's driving forward and creating the communication that really resonates with those core buyers. I think that's the key. And man, that 50% number could be way higher if everybody's on the same page and driving in the same direction instead of maybe scattering and again messing that message up for who those potential clients and buyers are. Because we all know, and this is the thing, to your point about my B, you might not ever not see it the same way. If you put the thought and the effort behind it in the first place, we all know it takes, there's so many different numbers out there, but at least probably 8 times that somebody recognizes something before they actually recognize it.
Yep.
And it goes even further beyond that. So to that point too, if you have a boring, bland, something doesn't work, it doesn't resonate with the right people. I mean, if you lost that on the first one, you're never going to get to the 8th one, or you're going to get the first one over and over and over again, and people won't recognize. So yeah, it's not as easy to quantify as I'd like to say, or give you a good answer on, but by not putting the right efforts behind it, I think you could be completely missing the boat.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I mean, and it goes back to the saying that, I grew up with, and I'm sure you did as well, is, you never get over that first impression, right? That first impression counts so much. And it's amazing how that first impression may not be what solidifies your opportunity, but it gets your foot in the door, and then your touches after that are what build on that impression. But if it's a terrible one or a non-existent one at that, you don't get that chance. You don't get through that door again. Today, especially, nobody has time. Nobody's going to spend the time to do it. And that's why personal branding as well as corporate branding or, company branding are so important. It's amazing. I in working with salespeople are like, well, sometimes I don't think we have the best products or whatever. I go, listen, you have the best product for someone's particular problem. That's what's important.
Right people. Yeah.
Focus on that. And so I think branding is kind of the same way. It's like, look, no, your brand personally and professionally is not for everybody, but it's not meant to be, and even if
you're trying to create something that's for everybody, you will be forever frustrated.
And one of my favorite sayings is, and this is true. I mean, I tell clients, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to work with you. And they're like, why wouldn't you work? We're good paying customers. Because just because you can buy it doesn't mean that it's right for me to sell it to you,
Right.
And that goes,
it's so critical.
The whole same thing. So, I think that's fascinating. And Bob, I know we're getting close down to the bottom of the hour here, so I don't want us to totally lose. Do you have any pieces you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, one of the things I'd like to interject on what you were saying, Chad, is, there's a tried and true business axiom that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust.
That's right.
And you came up with this. I assume you invented this phrase that content is the new cold call. And
Yes.
It really is. And the reason is because the know factor and a little bit of the trust factor can be accomplished with that content, with your LinkedIn profile. And so if you get that right, knowing that this is how today's buyer works, you're the B2B buyer, that's how they work, is they're trying to shortcut, right? They're trying to, by the time you get on a phone call with them or a Zoom call with them, they're about 80% of the way to making a decision. You have made a decision to do business with you already. They just kind of have to confirm that what they thought about you through your content and your profile is true.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I explain that to people all the time. The relationship, that trust feeling comes from the brand that you put online, and you're talking directly to problems that they experience or similar to what they experience and how you solve them and all of that is so important to be able to do. And that's really it. Cold prospecting, it's not that they're trying to shortcut when they're buying. What it comes down to is really, and I've had buyers tell me this, they actually feel that the sales process that most salespeople put them through is more painful than the problem they're experiencing.
Correct.
Yes.
I think that's the one. You want to go to the easiest possible solution. And sometimes that's just sticking with what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, change is hard enough as it is, much less, you're going to force me through all these meetings. I got to go through all this qualifying. And no, at least they're more tolerant and more accepting of that process when they know, or when they have that impression, I've got the right person and I've got the right product. Okay, I'll put myself through the torture and I'll get it, because at least now they have that trust factor built up. And we are getting right to time. So I'm going to go ahead and get off my soapbox. And thank you, Brian, for joining us. You gave me a lot to add on to today, and I appreciate that. And Bob, what's your last parting thoughts before we sign off?
Just, keep act like it's 2024 and not like it's 1994.
You got it. Amen. On that, everybody have an awesome week. Look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.